Today, we're going to be learning the ins and outs of how to build a Google site. My name is Rebecca Simons, and welcome to the Educate community. There are several different ways you can create a Google site. The first option is to select Sites from the app switcher, commonly referred to as the waffle. The second option is to type sites.google.com into the Omnibox. Both of these options will take you to the site's homepage, where you can then create a site using one of Google's pre-created templates or start from scratch with a blank site. If you know you want to start with a blank site, then option number 3 is to use the .new shortcut. Typing sites.new into the Omnibox will automatically create a blank site. The fourth option is to go through your drive. One benefit of creating files through your drive is that you can choose where you want the file to be stored before creating it. I'm going to navigate to the folder for my Google Sites course. Then I'm going to click on New, More, Google Sites. Once you create a new site, the edit file will live in your drive. Anytime you want to make updates, you'll need to come back to this file. Now that you've created your site, the first thing you need to do is name it. The text box next to the site's logo is the file name, which will only be visible to you or a site collaborator. Whatever you type in as your file name will auto-populate as your site name. However, these don't have to be the same. The site name is the name others will see when they visit your site. For our model today, I'm going to be creating a classroom site, so I'm going to name my file Sites Tutorial, and I'm going to name my site Simon Says Read, which was my social media handle when I was teaching 7th grade reading. Before we start delving into all the different ways you can customize your site, let's take a quick tour of the top menu bar. Across the top, you have the ability to undo and redo your most recent action. If you like keyboard shortcuts, Control-Z or Command-Z for a Mac works for undoing something as well. Next is the preview icon. This allows you to see how your site will look on a device once it's live. Google Sites uses what's called responsive design, which means the site automatically resizes for optimal viewing depending on the type of device it's being viewed on. You can preview what your site will look like on a phone, a tablet, or a computer screen. Simply click the X to exit preview. The link icon allows you to copy the link to your site once it's been published. Since mine hasn't been published yet, this link is grayed out. Next, you can add a collaborator to work on your site with you by clicking the plus person button. You can invite others to collaborate by adding their email addresses, just like you would for any other kind of Google Workspace file. When you're ready to publish your site, you'll click on the blue Publish button. Under the Settings gear, you have the ability to customize where the navigation menu will appear across the top or along the left-hand side, to add a site logo and favicon, or add an announcement banner. We'll go over these features in more detail shortly. Finally, you can make a copy of your site by clicking on the More menu and make a copy. Let's move to the side menu. We're going to start with the Themes tab, which allows us to customize the look and feel of our site. You can select one of Google's 6 pre-created themes, or you can create a custom theme. Within a pre-created theme, Google gives you 5 different accent colors to choose from, or you can choose a custom accent color. Accent colors are going to control different elements of your page and the section backgrounds. There are also 3 different font styles per theme. The font style controls the default fonts for your headers and titles and your body text. While Themes sets your default fonts, you're not locked into using them. You can still customize any text by clicking on the text, then selecting a new font, size, and color. Obviously, one of the drawbacks in using one of Google's pre-created themes is that you have more limited customization. If you have a little more time to play around, or you want a higher level of customization, you can create a custom theme by clicking on the plus under Custom. Let's create a custom theme together. First, it's going to ask me to name my theme. I'm just going to name it Demo Theme. I also have the option to add a logo and banner image at this time. When you add a banner image here, it becomes the default banner image each time you add a new page. Now, you can still customize the banner images, but that's going to be your default. I'm not ready to make a decision on these two components yet, so I'm just going to skip them for the time being and click Next. Next, you can create a color palette for your site. You can choose from Google's preset color options or add your own. I tend to stick with white, black, and then one accent color I plan on using in my site. Next, you can set a custom font for your titles and headings and a font for your body text. Right now, I'm really enjoying using this font for my titles and headings, and I really like using Proxima Nova for my body text. Once you've made these basic selections, your theme will be created and you'll have access to additional customization options. Under colors, you have the ability to modify the colors of your fonts for each style. Notice here, my text will be black. Under style 2, my text will be white. You can also change the background colors that you selected by clicking on the color palette to change your theme colors. Next, you can make additional adjustments to your font defaults. When I set up my custom theme, I chose 2 different fonts. The first font was applied to font styles title, heading, and subheading. The second font was applied to styles normal text and small text. If I wanted to, I could go in and set up different defaults for all 5 font styles. I can also control the default size, format, alignment, and spacing for each font style. Clicking on the eye will give you a quick preview of what each text style will look like on your site. Word of caution, I would really encourage you not to use more than 2 to 3 fonts on your site because it can quickly become distracting. Instead, opt to use your formatting options like bold and italics. Under images, you can upload a custom header, logo, and favicon. I'll show you additional places where you can change these later in the video. Navigation allows you to customize the appearance of your menu. Your menu can be transparent, like mine is right now, or it can have a background color, which you can customize under the color dropdown. If your menu is transparent, you need to select what color your menu will turn when a viewer scrolls down into your site. You can preview this by clicking the eye next to background, and it will show you what it will look like at the top and then after scrolling. You can also customize how viewers will know which page they're on. For example, if I were to select underline, you'll see that a line appears under the name of the page I'm currently viewing. Next, you can customize colors for the following components: buttons, dividers, links, and image carousels. Defaults for these components can be customized under all 3 styles. I typically don't worry about this until I'm further along in the design process and I decide if I actually am going to use any of these components. Finally, you can customize the spacing on your site. I find it best to have a couple of pieces of information on the site so you can decide which option is most visually appealing to you. Here's comfortable, cozy, and compact. Just remember, you don't have to make all these decisions right away. And if you decide something isn't working for you, it's easy to come back and make changes to your theme. To make edits to your theme, simply click on the Theme tab, then click on the More menu or the 3 dots for your theme and select Edit. All right, now that we have a theme set up, let's move into the Pages tab. This is where you can create new pages, subpages, and organize your navigation menu. You have 4 different options under the Pages tab. To see your options, hover over the plus icon. Not click, but hover. I'm going to start by adding a new page. When I add a page, it's going to ask me to name it, and whatever I type is what will appear in the navigation menu along the top or side of my site. You can also create subpages or nested pages. Let's say that I want a page for the district calendars and a page for my class calendar and daily schedule. There are two different ways to create a subpage. The first option is to click the More menu next to the page you want to create a subpage for and click Add Subpage. I'm going to name this one District and Sports Calendars. Now, you might have noticed this page didn't appear on my navigation menu, but there's now a drop-down arrow next to Schedules. If I hover over Schedules, I have the option to click on my new page. The second way to add a subpage is by using the plus button to add a page, then clicking and dragging to reorganize. I'm going to create a page for our class schedule and calendar. Notice this page is not indented, meaning it's a top level page, so it's appearing in my menu. To make it a subpage, I simply need to click and drag on top of the page I want to nest it under. You should see a blue box around the page name, letting you know where your page is going to nest. You can create nested pages up to 5 levels deep. The next option is to add a new link. This allows you to add an item to your menu that links to an external website. For example, I might want to add a link to Google Classroom. I'm going to name this link Google Classroom. Then I'm going to go to the Classwork tab for my class and copy and paste the URL into the link field. Notice I'm on the Classwork tab page, so this is the location that my students will be brought to instead of the stream. You have the option to choose whether your site will open in the current tab or in a new tab. I always choose to have mine open in a new tab so that my site is still open. Notice that the icon beside this page is a link letting you know that this is an external link. Another option under Pages is called New Menu Section. Instead of creating a new page, this option creates a menu title, which you can then group subpages under. For example, I might want to provide a unique Google Classroom link for each class period. So I'm going to create a menu section called Google Classroom. Then I'm going to nest external links for each period under it. So here is my menu section. I'm then going to click and drag my first external link underneath, and I want to rename it Block 1. Say that's my first period class. I'm then going to create another new link, name it Block 2. I'm going to copy and paste the link to the classwork page for my Block 2 Google Classroom. When I click on Google Classroom in the menu, notice it only shows my drop-down options. It doesn't take me to a separate page, unlike if I click on Schedules. Notice again that this icon is different, so you can easily tell the difference between a page and a menu section. If I were to click on my links, it would open up my Sites Google Classroom and my Productivity Google Classroom. Finally, you have the option to embed content as an entire page. This option is different than the embed feature under the Insert tab because content added through this method will fill the entire page instead of just a section of the page. To add an embedded page, hover over the plus, then click on Full Page Embed. Name your page. I'm going to call this one Digital Resources. Then click Done. You can embed anything with a URL, embed code, or from your drive. I'm going to demonstrate this feature by embedding the planning page we used in Module 1. Right now, you can only see a portion of the Google Doc, but when you preview your site, which is what it will look like when it goes live, you can see that the entire document is visible. Now let's talk about how to edit and rearrange our navigation menu. To edit the name of a page, simply double-click on the name and type in your new text. To reorder how pages appear in your menu, all you have to do is click and drag. A blue line will appear indicating where the page will be placed. Remember, blue boxes show you where a page will nest. Blue lines are for reordering. You can also choose to hide a page, which means it won't show in the navigation menu. This is useful when a page is under construction. To hide a page, click on the More menu to the right of the file name and click Hide from Navigation. As you'll see, Resources is no longer showing in my menu. The More menu houses several other options, including the ability to delete a page. Finally, you can choose to display your navigation menu across the top or along the left-hand side of your screen. To customize your menu location, click on the gear. Then, under Navigation, use the Mode drop-down arrow to select top or side. I personally prefer to have my menu run across the top. As we talked about earlier, if you created a custom theme, you can change the color of your menu bar. If you're using one of Google's preset themes, the color of the menu bar will already be decided for you. Next up are headers. To customize your header, hover over the header section, then click on Change Image. Under Select Image, you can choose an image from Google's gallery or use an image from the internet or upload an image from your drive. If you want to upload an image from your desktop or your downloads, simply click on Upload instead of Select Image. Now, when you insert a header, Google will automatically apply a readability adjustment, causing the image to appear a little dull. To remove it, simply hover over the header section, then click the sparkles. As you can see, our image is now much brighter. Google provides you with 4 different header types, which allow you to control the size of your header. You have cover, large banner, banner, and title only, which is just a white background. If I'm using a header on my site, I tend to stick with large banner or banner. Cover is great if you've got a photo that you really want to draw a lot of attention to, but I tend to shy away from this option because people have to scroll down so far on the site before they see any of my content. You can also design a custom header, which is a fun way to add some personality to your site. There's one drawback or limitation to using a custom header though. Because Sites uses responsive design, it resizes and rearranges your content based on the device your site's being viewed from. What this means is the text in a custom header may not show appropriately on a tablet or a phone. Now, that may have been as clear as mud, so let me demonstrate. I'm going to start by adding a custom header from my Google Drive. Then I'm going to delete the title that says Home. When I preview my header, it looks normal on the computer view, but as I switch to the tablet and the phone view, it begins to cut off parts of my text. If this doesn't bother you, then you're good to go. But if it does bother you, like it does me, be sure to check out my advanced sites tips and tricks video. I've got a workaround. I'll be sure to link that video in the description below. Now it's time to start adding content to our pages. There are 2 main ways to add content to your site. You can double click to access the quick add wheel, which allows you to add text, images, upload files from your drive or your computer, and add embed code. You can also add content through the Insert tab. You'll see the same 4 options from the quick add wheel at the top. Under this are pre-made customizable layout blocks. The last section includes organizational tools such as buttons, dividers, spacers, and additional types of content you can embed. Let's start by adding one of the pre-made layout blocks to our page. Google has 6 pre-made layout blocks you can choose from. Each layout is made up of what's called a content tile. Now, any of the tiles can be rearranged or deleted, so don't feel like you're locked into the content block design. When you add any type of content to your page, it creates what's called a section, The section is boxed in blue right now. Now, the section allows you to move all of these content tiles at once. When I select or hover over a section, a small menu is going to appear to the right. The first icon allows you to change the section background color. For example, if I choose style 3, it's going to change it to blue. These colors are controlled through your site theme. If you have a custom theme, you can change all 3 color options. If you're using one of Google's pre-created themes, you have the option to change style 3. You also have the option to use an image as your section background, which I'm going to demonstrate later. The second icon allows you to duplicate the section, and the third icon to delete a section. If I were to add another content block, it would create a second section. It's kind of hard to see here, but the sections are separated by light gray dotted lines. These lines aren't visible once your site has been published. Now, as I mentioned earlier, sections allow you to move chunks of tiles or chunks of content all at once. For example, if I want this entire row to be seen first on my page, I need to begin by hovering over the left-hand side of the section. My mouse pointer will turn into a move pointer, and then I can click and drag my section to a new location. As you'll notice, a blue line will appear showing you where your content will be placed. You can also rearrange individual content tiles. When you hover over a content tile, a blue border will appear. Click to select your tile, then you can move your content anywhere within your page. I can move this tile to a new spot in my current section or to a completely new section. You can also group content together vertically. Here's an example of vertically grouped content. You have a placeholder and 2 text boxes. One benefit of vertically grouping your content is that it allows you to move all the tiles as one unit, and it decreases the amount of space between the content tiles. To group content together vertically, click on your tile and drag it to where a blue line appears on the top or bottom of another content tile. For example, I could move this tile on top of my text boxes, between them, or below them. Once items are grouped together vertically, I can rearrange their order by selecting an individual tile, then using the up and down arrows on my keyboard to move it. I can also click and drag to rearrange as well. To remove a tile from a vertical group, select the individual tile you want to remove, then click and drag it away from the group. Now, you might have noticed as I was moving my tiles around, grid lines and a transparent blue shape appeared in the background. This helps me know where my tile is going to be placed. Sites also has an alignment tool that helps you know when spacing is equal on either side of your content. When I click and drag this tile, you'll notice I have blue bars on either side, which lets me know that my content tile is centered. Finally, you can also resize your content. Simply click on the tile you want to resize, then click and drag one of the blue circles. The blue circles let you know which direction you can resize in. For example, I can only resize the width of my text box, whereas I can resize this placeholder in any direction. When you move or resize a single tile, all the other tiles in the section will be adjusted accordingly. Now let's talk about the different types of content tiles you can add, starting with text boxes. When you insert a text box, a text edit menu will appear similar to what you would see in Google Docs. In the edit menu, you can choose from 5 different text styles. Remember, text styles are controlled under the Themes tab. However, a new feature of Sites allows you to change the font type, size, and color independent of your theme. You can also add rich text formatting such as bold, italics, or underline, control text alignment, and add hyperlinks. Under the More menu, you can control your spacing and indentations. Now, if you're using normal text or small text, you'll see additional options appear, such as numbering and bullet points. I'm going to start adding some content to my site by adding a daily schedule. Now, you can also add another type of text box called a collapsible group. A collapsible group includes two text boxes. The top text box will always be visible, and the second text box is the text that will be visible only if you click on the drop-down arrow. I like to use collapsible groups for frequently asked questions, providing schedule details, or anytime you want to decrease the amount of text you're showing at once. So, for example, on my schedule, I'm adding that my students have arts and humanities at 8 a.m. But I want to provide some additional information. So in the dropdown, I'm going to provide how often they'll be rotating, what the order of the rotations will be, and who will be teaching each class. Here's what this would look like once the site was live. As you can see, here's the beginning of my daily schedule. If families want to know more about arts and humanities, when you click the drop-down arrow, there's our additional information. Next up are images. As the saying goes, pictures are worth 1,000 words. They are an amazing way not only to add color to your site, but also to provide families with a window into their children's lives at school. Images can be added by clicking on the image button, the quick add wheel, or by using a placeholder. I'm going to demonstrate adding an image by using a placeholder in a content block. To insert content in the placeholder, begin by clicking on the plus button and select where you want to add your image from. Now, placeholders don't just have to be used for images. They can be used to hold the place for any content listed under the plus. I personally love to use placeholders to mock up what I want my page to look like. That way, I'm not held up because I haven't created something yet. Placeholders are also an amazing tool if you want to create a site template to use with your students, like a digital portfolio. This places the emphasis on the content your students are placing in the site and removes the cognitive load of designing the layout. I'm going to add a picture of myself and turn this into an About Me section. Images, like text boxes, have an edit menu. This menu allows you to crop and uncrop an image. Now, when you use a placeholder, the image will be constrained to the size of the placeholder. You might have noticed that the top of my head is chopped off. Crop allows you to enlarge an image or move the image around in the tile until you're happy with what's visible. As you can see, I've dragged the picture down far enough that my head is no longer chopped off. Uncrop makes the entire image visible. The link icon allows you to turn an image into a link that will take you to another page within your site or to an external website. This feature becomes really important if you want to create custom navigation buttons. The trash can icon obviously allows you to delete your image tile, and under the More menu, you have the option to replace your image with a new image, add alt text, or a caption. Now, you might not be as familiar with alt text, but this is the text that's accessed by screen readers for people who might have trouble seeing your content. When you're thinking about making your site accessible for everyone, this is a really easy feature to add. Add caption is the text that you can have appear underneath your photo to describe what the photo is. Finally, you can resize your image by using the blue dots. You can also add images to your site with an image carousel. Image carousels allow you to display a rotating album of photos. I'm going to insert pictures of my former classroom, so if this were an actual site, families would be able to see the space their students were learning in. I'm also going to add a text box with a title that says, Explore Our Classroom. Now to insert my carousel, I'm going to click on the image carousel option under the Insert tab. Carousels have to have a minimum of 2 photos and have a maximum of 20. To begin adding images, I'm going to click on the gray plus button. I've got the option to upload from my computer or to select an image from the internet or my drive. Now, quick tip, it's helpful to have your photos already grouped together in the same folder. This way you're not having to track photos down from multiple locations, and it helps when you're setting your viewing permissions. To select multiple images, you can hold down the control key, then click on the images you want to include, or if you're wanting to include all the images in your file, you can select them all by pressing Control A. Once you've selected your photos, you can click and drag to rearrange the order your photos will appear in. When you hover over an image, you have the option to delete or to add text. You can add alt text or an image caption. Under the settings gear, you have the option to display dots at the bottom of your carousel. This lets viewers know which photo they're on out of the total photos. If you added captions to your photo, make sure that this box is checked so they'll be visible. Finally, you have the option to have your carousel automatically scroll through images. The other option is to let viewers scroll through them by themselves. If you enable auto start, you can control how long an image is displayed before it switches to the next image. I personally prefer slow, but you should play around with the different settings to find a transition speed you like. I'm going to quickly resize my image carousel, then let's preview what it looks like in action. Now, as you can see, our carousel is automatically transitioning, but there are navigational arrows on either side of the photos that still allows viewers to control the viewing process. Once a carousel has been clicked on, the auto transition turns off. You can also add embedded code or a site URL. Embedded code allows you to add features that are not one of the standard options in Google Sites. Embedding a site URL is not real exciting unless the site has a dynamic page. I would advocate that you're just better off providing a link to a website unless they have a dynamic page. Let me demonstrate the difference between embedding a dynamic page versus a static page. For my example, I'm going to use the Murray State website. First, I'm going to click on the static option. It adds the site name and a description of the site, which I can click on to open the site in a new window. If the site has a dynamic option, viewers can interact within the website while staying within your site. Let me demonstrate in preview. So when I scroll down to the Murray State page, I can click on Apply, and it's going to take me to the Murray State Apply Now page while still staying in the Simon Says Read site. The other embedded option is to add embedded code. Now, you don't have to know how to write HTML code to use this feature. Many sites provide embedded code that you can simply copy and paste into your site. The only drawback, sometimes it takes a little digging to find. For example, I have pulled the embedded code from a tweet for our Educate Community member badge. Twitter provided me with the code, so all I have to do is copy and paste it in, and then you'll be able to see the tweet on my site. There are all sorts of fun options for what you can embed. You can also embed content from your drive. This is one of my favorite features in sites. The Drive button is going to bring up all the content in your drive. However, you can also add content from your drive by clicking on the buttons for specific file types down below. This option acts like a filter. For example, if I clicked on slides, it would only display the slide decks in my drive. Unless you've recently accessed your file, you need to know the file name so you can look it up in the search field. Because of this, I don't tend to use this option. Instead, I rely on the Drive button up top. I want to add a class calendar to my site. I'm going to add a text box labeling this class calendar. Then I'm going to go to my drive and select my living calendar. If you haven't heard of living calendars before, these are really cool options. You can design them in Google Slides, or you can design them in a Google Doc. I personally like to design in slides because it gives me a little more flexibility with where content is placed. When you're in preview mode or your site is live, you have the ability to interact with the file. For example, I can click through the different slides on the living calendar I just added. If I had any hyperlinks on the calendar, visitors would be able to click and interact with those as well. The nice thing about adding something like a Google slide deck to your site is that any changes I make to the slide deck are going to show up instantly on my site. I don't have to republish for viewers to see the changes. Quick side note, when you add files to your site, it's important that you check your sharing permissions. Files on your site have to be set so that anyone with the link can view. Once my site's published, I like to visit it in an incognito window or in a guest Chrome account to make sure that I have all my share settings set correctly. You can also embed YouTube videos, Google Calendars, and Google Maps directly into your site. When you click on the YouTube button, you can search for a video to insert, or if you have a specific video in mind, you can copy and paste the shareable link into the search field. If you want to learn how to only show a specific clip of a video on sites, make sure to check out my advanced sites tips and trick video. Now, just a minute ago, I showed you how to insert a living calendar, but you can also add a Google Calendar. You can add an individual calendar, or you can select multiple calendars to display at once. Again, you'll need to make sure your calendar share settings are set to where the public can view your events. You can change the default view of your calendar by clicking on the settings gear, then adjusting the view mode. If you're displaying multiple calendars simultaneously, I would suggest turning off the title because it's going to only display the title of one of your calendars. Finally, you can add a Google map displaying a specific location, possibly the location of your school. Sites provides you with several organizational features such as table of contents, buttons, divider, and spacers. Table of contents is useful if you have a one-page site with multiple sections. Now, the table of contents is going to pull any text that uses the text style title, heading, or subheading. The only changes that you can make to your table of contents is whether text is visible or not on your published site. For example, if I didn't want text formatted as a heading to show in my table of contents, I could click this I out to the left of the text, and when I preview my site, that text is no longer visible to viewers. And dividers and spacers are a nice way to visually break up content. Dividers are going to be a straight line. If you have a custom theme, you can customize the color and the line weight of your divider. Style 1 is the style that controls the divider color and weight. When you add a spacer, you can change the background color, and you can also control how tall and wide the spacer is. Next up are buttons. Buttons are a great way to provide in-site navigation or link to external sites. If you're interested in making custom buttons for your site, I cover that in my advanced sites tips and tricks video. When I click to insert a button, it'll ask what text I want to be visible in my button and where I want my button to take viewers. I can choose from an internal site page, an external site like Google Classroom, or I can provide a link to a Google file like a Google form. For example, I might want this button to say, click to volunteer. I can then paste a link to my Google form that families could fill out to volunteer in my classroom. When viewers click on this button, it will open the form in a new window. If you have a custom theme, you can control how your buttons look. There are 3 button styles: filled button, outlined button, and text button. These 3 styles can be customized for each section style. For example, if I changed my background to style 3 and changed my button to filled, my button is now white versus blue. Finally, you have social links. Here, you'll copy and paste the links to take viewers directly to your social media pages. If it's one of the major social media pages, sites will automatically put a logo in for you. You can then control the size, shape, fill, color, and alignment. At the bottom of your page is where you can add a footer. A footer is the information you want viewers to easily have access to, like your contact information, social media handles, site links, copyright, privacy policy, etc. To add a footer, scroll down to the bottom of your page, hover over the bottom, and click Add Footer. The footer will default to giving you a single text box with the style small text, but you can customize this area just like any other part of your site, adding images and links. Just make sure you've clicked Edit Footer, then Insert Content. Now, leave this text box alone temporarily until you have some other content in your footer. I'm going to begin by clicking Social Links, pasting in our Twitter handle. And then at that time, if I want to get rid of that small text box, I can click on it and remove the trash can. Now, because I've added this social link to my footer, I can go to any page and it's going to appear at the bottom. If I didn't want my footer to be visible on a specific page for some reason, I can hover over the footer and click on the eye in the bottom left corner to hide it only on that page. Finally, let's visit the settings gear. Here you can customize your brand image with a logo and a favicon, as well as add an announcement banner. Let's start with brand images. Your logo will be added to your site name. A favicon is the little icon that appears next to the website name on your tab or when you save a bookmark. The favicon will show up once you've published your site, so don't panic if you don't see it right away. I typically make my logo and favicon the same. Because these branding images are small, it's best to go simple and for something that's easily recognizable. You'll notice that Google's favicons are simply the logos of their product. I'm actually going to use my Bitmoji as my logo and my favicon. So I'm going to use this one right here. I'm going to do Save Image As, save it to my downloads. And then for logo, I'm going to click Upload, select my Bitmoji image, and you'll see that it's appeared at the top of my site. And I can do the same for my favicon. Now remember, I said that this won't show up until I've published my site. Let's move on to announcement banners. I'm absolutely in love with this feature. An announcement banner is displayed above your site content, and it's a great way to make announcements or draw attention to important information. If you want your banner turned on, toggle on the switch. Then select a banner color and add a custom announcement message. For example, I might want my banner to say, sign up for parent-teacher conferences. I could then add a button that says sign up now and a link to my appointment schedule booking page. If you're linking viewers to anything external, I would always check to have the content open in a new tab so that your site is still open. Finally, you have the option to have your banner display on all your pages or only on the home page. Let's try clicking on the button. As you can see, it's opened up my booking page that I use for work that allow faculty and staff to book appointment times with me. Once you're happy with your site, it is time to publish. The first time you publish your site, you'll be asked to customize the back half of the URL. You'll see a preview of it below the site. Next, you want to make sure you have your site viewing permissions set to give access to your desired audience. Click on Manage to change your settings. Right now, my site is set so that only people with a Murray State email address are allowed to view. However, I want to change my site where it's viewable to everyone, so I would click public. If you only want specific people to have access to your site, then use the setting restricted and type in the emails of the people you'd like to give access to. If you've set your site to public, you'll have the option to control whether public search engines will display your site in their search results. The default is to allow your site to show up in those results. Finally, click Publish to finish. Anytime you make changes or updates to your site, you'll need to republish for them to be visible. Sites will show you a side-by-side comparison of the changes you've made before you finalize publishing. Once your site's been published, you'll receive additional options under the drop-down arrow next to Publish. Publish Settings allows you to modify the web address, search settings, and whether you want to review changes before republishing. You can also click here to quickly view your published site or to unpublish your site. This means your site will no longer be live until you republish it. Thanks for joining the Educate community today. Be sure to check out our next video on advanced sites, tips, and tricks. If you're interested in more tips and tutorials on all things EdTech, be sure to head over to our channel. Also, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you'll be notified each time we post new content. See you next time.